Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Wildcard Devy Show. I'm Phil, that's Jack. College football is going crazy. Fantasy football is going crazy. We are well now into a quarter of the way through the college season, 4 games through the NFL season. There is so much happening. Your rosters are all falling apart around you. The team you thought was rebuilding is making a championship push, and you're panicking. You're sending trade offers out left, right, and center. Your favorite superstar is on IR. It's not our fault. Jack, talk us through it. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. I'm good. I am reeling in a few leagues and celebrating in a couple of others. Devy wise, having an absolute stinker in our very own Wildcard Devy League. I think I am 1-7 in our 4-game matchups, and obviously against the median as well. So in a bit of a rebuild there, but we wouldn't be the Devy Show if we weren't at least giving you someone who had room for improvement in that league, right?
Absolutely. And then obviously the C2C League is well on the way. We've just been talking about that before we came on air. One of us is 5-0 on the college side of the ball, but doesn't have any wide receivers on the NFL side. So, it's like the clever dumb balance, isn't it?
Yeah, we're doing opposites really. You are flying in the college side, and I'm doing pretty well on the NFL side. Together, maybe we'd make the super roster.
Yeah, maybe we should do a podcast or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, excellent, man. Well, listen, for those that are just catching up, it's been it's so much has happened in 2 weeks since we last saw you. But let's start with the biggest news. We're getting college football, Jack.
We are. We're getting the what did they say they were calling it? The Union Jack
Classic, they're going to call it.
Okay. I'm not sure you can call the first game of a series a classic, but we'll go with it. It's very American, isn't it?
Absolutely. So for context, guys, it was announced this week that next summer, or next September rather, so I think September the 19th, week 3 of the college football season, next season, we're going to be getting a game at Wembley. We're getting Arizona State and Kansas, which, we might get to see Sam Levitt. Who knows, depending on what he does 2026 draft-wise, whether he comes back in 2027. Jalen Daniels should surely be out of eligibility by then. But, yeah, look, it's just exciting, isn't it? We love this game and we love this sport. And for those who will not get the opportunity to go across and watch college ball in America, this is the first step to helping us kind of grow the game. The zone seems like it's been a massive step in the right direction, in a kind of big uptick in people getting their eyes on the sport. This is the kind of next step of that evolution, and I'm absolutely buzzing for it.
Yeah. Me too. I think there are plenty of podcasts and TV shows in America that will do a great job of explaining why this is a bad thing for American fans and why it is not true college football, which is totally valid. And we're not arguing against them. But like you say, this is a taste of college football that we can get in the UK. I mean, we've obviously had a game in Dublin the last 2 years. But even that is, it's quite expensive to go over to Ireland. So for those of us where maybe London is where we live, or it's a bit more accessible, this is a big deal. And yes, it won't be the same. The fans that go will not be experiencing tailgating in the same way as they would at Kansas or Arizona State. I can't quite remember who's the designated home side, but it's not quite going to be the same, but it is still going to be a taste of it. And I think we said before we started recording, as soon as college football effectively started marketing itself as a business, and that includes NIL deals and sponsorships for players and all kinds of things, this was probably coming. You look at how the NFL model has worked, and the revenue generated from international games is huge. So it was kind of coming for the college game, and we are lucky enough to potentially benefit from it if we're interested in going. I think there are lots of clips of why this is the devastating thing for college football and why it's wrong. But for us, from our side of the pond, from our viewpoint, this is a great thing, and it will get more eyes in the UK on college football. I think that's a given because college football is such a growing market, but still fairly small in the UK.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So it's exciting times. It's exciting times. But as high as that kind of news gets us, and as excited as that gets us, we've had some bad news, haven't we? Why don't you tell the people what's been going on?
Yeah, unfortunately, John Mateer is out. He's on the college version of IR, really, in any campus to canton leagues. He's on your IR qualifier. He's had hand surgery, I believe, and it was kind of innocuous. We didn't really, watching the game, this was 2 weeks ago, watching the game, didn't realise anything had happened, but it turned out he required surgery and he's out for an unspecified period of time. So they're hoping that he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we've got the Red River Showdown in a few weeks' time where Oklahoma are taking on Texas, which we would love to have Mateer back for. And we say that without any idea what his recovery time is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real gut wrench because obviously in a QB class that I know we're going to discuss in more length this evening, but in a QB class where many of the names that we expected to emerge at the top, while these guys are all kind of falling over themselves down the slide, as it were, John Mateer was a name that was firmly ascending. He was in a great situation at Oklahoma with a great cast around him, playing fantastic football, and he seemed give it go back a couple of weeks, seemed on the fast track to be the name at the top of the draft board and at the top of the kind of Heisman rankings and voting as well. Everything was just heading in the right direction. So this is a real gut punch for him. I just hope that for the people that are making all the kind of decisions in back offices, or front offices, excuse me, it's not out of sight, out of mind. And, what he's put on tape was the step forward we needed. And that come draft time, he's still a name that's on people's lips.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess the question on my mind is how many weeks does it take for him to come back for another season in college? Do you know what I mean? Like, how many weeks does he have to miss? So right now, he could medically redshirt this season still. He's only played 4 games, so he could still medically redshirt. If it is as bad as, he's going to miss the next 6 weeks or so, then, he might consider that just to give him that option. But that would obviously rule him out for the entire rest of this season. And if that happens, you're pretty certain that he's going to go back to Oklahoma for another year, assuming Ben Arbuckle is going to stay, because there's lots of rumours about him for head coaching jobs at the moment as well. Yeah, you hope it's not out of sight, out of mind, but I don't think that is necessarily a nail in Mateer's coffin, because he has got the option of coming back for another year.
I think I read the initial reports were like 4 to 5 weeks post surgery. But obviously that I'm basing that, I assume, on no complications, everything ramping up perfectly. Yeah. I mean, of course, you've got to remember, you sit a guy for 5 weeks, he's got to come back in mid-season into game form. And yeah, it might not look as good as it looked pre-injury, but we're certainly pulling for him because he's hella fun to watch if you've not really got the hang of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, and then there was more. Funny that you mentioned redshirting, because yesterday news dropped of a big time redshirt for this season. Talk to me about Mackay Hughes, and the impact of 1, the move to Oregon, what we thought we were going to get; 2, what we have got; and 3, what this move means for his future and his Devy stock.
Yeah, Mackay Hughes, a really strange situation where we've kind of expected him to be the RB1 at Oregon, and he is so far down the depth chart, it really boggles belief. And we'll dive into some of that in a minute. But for his Devy stock, his transfer to Oregon really put him on the Devy radar. I would say his previous season at Tulane was really impressive, but whether it was attracting people with NFL scouting knowledge, I'm not certain whether they would have picked up on Mackie Hughes for another year in Tulane. So it really put him on the map, and his buzz got really high to the point where he was going in the second round of people's Devy drafts or supplemental Devy drafts, which was, maybe a warning flag for landing spot over watching the tape. But regardless, Mackie Hughes is definitely a good running back. He definitely has traits that should have made him the top running back, certainly over Noah Whittington, who, we've seen Noah Whittington over several years at Oregon be a bit part player. He's not that special. It's really weird that Mackie Hughes hasn't carved out a proper role in that offense, and it makes you think, is there something else going on? Is there a falling out? Is there an injury? Is there an attitude issue? Or, we can only hypothesize. I don't want to throw dirt in anyone or throw shade at anybody unnecessarily. It's just I really want to know what's happened, because he's talented enough to have cracked that roster.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not just a fall off. We know there's a deep room at Oregon, but he didn't even travel with the team last weekend, which just tells you everything you need to know. In opportunities lost, other people gain an opportunity, and I know we're just going off piece slightly talking about that Oregon wide receiver room, but true freshman D'Air Hill leads the team in yards with 270 yards, and then another freshman, Jordan Davison, the big bruiser at the moment, seems to have a very specific short yardage role. But man, he leads the team with 7 touchdowns. You get him in the red zone, and at the moment, people just can't stop him.
I think at some point over the last couple of weeks, he was the leading touchdown scorer in college football.
Yeah, and I can absolutely believe it. Like I say, he's on 7 rushing touchdowns for the year off 23 carries. That's little over a touchdown every 1 in 3. And he is being used at the moment in a very, very specific role. But I have, we watched the tape in the offseason, and I had the pleasure of watching Jordan Davison's tape, and I said, this is a guy who has the potential to be a bell cow with that size, that speed, because he is quick for a big guy. At 240 pounds, as long as he can keep good weight on and keep bad weight off, I like him. And I think as some of these guys move on, if Mackie Hughes' next move was to move out, obviously Noah Whittington doesn't have a great deal of time left. I think we're going to see this guy, between him and Hill, a kind of thunder and lightning combo, lead that backfield for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's really promising signs. Great that he's trusted in that goal line role as well. There's no fumbles on tape as far as I've seen. He's obviously, he's trusted in that situation. And obviously that's your high pressure situation. If you don't run it in, you've wasted a great drive. So good signs. Great for Devy value. If you drafted him, you didn't have to spend too much, and I think he's already repaying what you invested.
Oh, without a doubt. And just for context, right? That 23 carries, he only has 91 yards, and that's not inefficiency. That's just where they're putting him on the field. They're the carries he's taking. But he's punched 7 of those home for touchdowns. A season long of 9 yards.
Very nice. He's got the Gary Lineker tap-in role.
That's it. Exactly.
He lets his team do all the work, and then he gets the glory.
Absolutely. So let's get back to Mackie Hughes, because that's the bit we're doing. What's next then? So he redshirts this year. What does the impact of redshirting have for his Devy value? Because right now, we've got to be honest, he's taken a huge hit. But the red shirt almost gives him another roll of the dice. Do we expect to transfer straight back out? Do you think he's going to sit and fight for his role at Oregon? Can he afford, if he's that far down the pecking order at the moment, to spend another season trying in Eugene?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Oregon is his future. I think, like you said, he didn't travel with the team. So I think, he'd already agreed that he was going to redshirt this season. with Dan Lanning, but it very much sounded like a conversation was had between Hughes and Lanning, rather than this being, oh well, you're clearly injured, you're going to miss the entire season, we'll give you a red shirt. I think he has asked for a red shirt in order to transfer somewhere else. I think it'll be really interesting to see what kind of caliber Power 4 team are interested in him if he does hit the transfer portal, because like we've said, we don't know why it's not worked out at Oregon. Is another team, I mean, coaches talk, so I don't think any team that goes in for him are going to be going in blind. So I think we'll know from the caliber of teams that are offering him out of the transfer portal whether this is a flaw that they're not worried about, or whether, if we don't see a top Power 4 caliber school be interested, there's something there about his talent, it's not just issues off the field.
That's it. How many shares have you got? Did you take him high anywhere, or did you resist that temptation?
I resisted that temptation. He was too expensive for me, and he was nowhere on the radar before. So it's a weird case of someone who was available absolutely everywhere, but then he was too expensive in my eyes to acquire him. So it's a weird one that we've all missed out on.
Agreed. Well, I mean, there's an opportunity there somewhere, and hey, maybe now, if you believe in the talent, if you've watched the tip, now would be the time to buy at the absolute floor, because whenever he moves again later in the season, that's going to take another spike. People are going to get back on the train. If you believe in the talent, now's the time to take that gamble.
Yeah, well, let me do a quick comparison for you. We spoke about Jonte Cook when he was a freshman and how excited we were for him, particularly myself. That didn't go so well. He transferred out and kind of dipped his toe in at Washington, and then he was out again straight away. He's at Syracuse now, and at the point we spoke about him before the season, he was free. You could pick him up for absolutely nothing. Your last round pick of your upcoming Devy draft would probably have been enough to roster him. That's probably where Mekhi Hughes is at right now. And Jonte Cook's having a stellar season at Syracuse. So there's a bounce back opportunity here. I think it's almost certain that if you buy now, you will gain on what you pay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Right. Let's move on to a couple of the big standout performances. And we're going to go to week 5 first. I know there's a guy I want to talk about from week 4, but we'll save that for later in the show. Okay, I love this. I love when I come into the chat and see that you've put the banners together already. Look at this. Let's talk lemon juice. Okay, because Mekhi Lemon has certainly got the juice. This week, he absolutely went off. 11 receptions, 151 yards, 2 TDs. That's his third game of over 125 receiving yards this season. He is a man who is ascending quickly. People are really starting to sit up and take notice. I said to you before we joined the call, there's this... He's on that Emeka Egbuka thing. You can pick holes in how fast he isn't, how high he doesn't jump, and whatever else. But then you can just put on the tape and you can watch him play football and actually go, do you know what? This guy's just good. And there's that old mantra, isn't there? Just hashtag draft good players. And if you draft good players, guess what? They end up doing the business for you. So yeah, tell me what you've seen and what you like, and just how high you are on Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that can do it all, and you're right. He's not a couple of inches taller than the DBs. He's not particularly weighty or strong. He is clever. He has a great release off the line, and he can vary up his release, and he's crisp in his route running, those are all things that we said about Emeka Egbuka, about Jackson Smith and Jigba, players that don't necessarily fit a prototype, like, for example, Quinton Johnson being a big outside receiver. He doesn't fit into that small slot receiver idea or mold either. And so teams are, I mean, USC are certainly being creative with how they use Mackay Lemon. Then they're happy to move him across the field, which is another good sign for the NFL that Lemon can line up all across the field. I'm really impressed with how fluidly he can kind of break out of a route, which buys him separation, and that's exactly what you want from a wide receiver. You need separation to be opening, and you're going to be targeted more. So some really great skills on show. I'm impressed with his blocking downfield as well. I know that's, it doesn't mean that much at this stage, but it's a big tick for NFL front offices if you've got a guy who's willing to fight for each play and fight for the plays where he's not getting the ball. Although from his stat lines, that doesn't seem to be that often, to be honest. It's easier to be unselfish when you're getting, 30% of the receptions per game. But he's doing a great job. He's a really exciting prospect. He's someone that we were quite high on USC as a team and as an offense this season, partly because their defense is not great, and so their offense needs to be great. But Jada Mayava is stepping up at quarterback. We've got Mackay Lemon doing well, and Jacoby Lane also currently injured, but having a good season as well. So it's been a really good start to the season for those players. Hilariously, at the same time, Lincoln Riley under pressure because they lost to Illinois at the weekend. But, we're not really that concerned with head coaches and their longevity when these three players in particular are off to the league pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing that stood out for me when I watched Mackay Lemon, like I say, there's no superpower. His superpower is just being a good player. But I suppose if I was going to say what to me is his most dominant trait that stands out for me, it's what he does with the ball in his hands after the catch. The angles he takes, because he's not the most elusive. He's not a jitterbug with the little kind of back cuts and whatever else. But the angles he takes manipulate defenders, and he just makes the most of every time the ball's in his hands. I think it wouldn't surprise me to see him up amongst the very elite in terms of yards after catch production. It's absolutely no surprise to me that he leads the FBS in receiving yards at the moment with 589. He's playing incredibly well. And I think when I did my way too early mock about 3 weeks ago with Mags, might even be 4 weeks ago now, on the hot seat, I had him as a second round player. I think I had him at the 201. Well, it's a no-brainer right now. If he's making it to your rookie drafts, he's a first-round pick all day for you dynasty players.
Yes, he most certainly is. Most certainly is. All right, we've left it long enough. Let's talk your boy Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, remember we did our show after week one. And we asked questions. We said, what on earth is going on here? Are we concerned about the fact that in that Miami game, Jeremiah Love did not get a sniff, really? And we said, look, who knows? Maybe it was injury. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that. And we said, in order to make ourselves feel sure about him as a prospect, we needed to see him take those bell cow carries, and we needed to see him very much back involved as the heartbeat of everything that goes on in that Notre Dame offense. And, well, we got what we asked for. I'm going to start asking for like free money and stuff like that. Maybe someone will give me it. He is bang on form. Absolutely just dynamic. Everything that we thought he was at the end of last season, when we saw him at his best of last season, he has shown us particularly over the last couple of the weeks. So he now has 341 rushing yards on the season. But most importantly, he's also got 150 receiving yards. Mm-hmm. So he's at 500 all-purpose yards. He's been playing incredibly well. This last weekend, 14 carries for 57 yards, 5 receptions for another 70 yards, 4 total touchdowns, 2 in the air and 2 on the ground. He's just looking like that complete back that we wanted to see.
Yeah, he is. and he's showing that physicality that we kind of saw glimpses of last season. But he is very happy to run through a player, which is really fun to see. But also, he's not doing it recklessly. He's not putting himself at risk. I think there's 2 points from the start of the season that have really changed my opinion, because I was certainly not as high on Jeremiah Love as maybe I should have been. But there's partly that don't take a running back bias within me. One, that performance against Miami was so confusing, but it looks like Miami, I think statistically, Miami are a top 10 run defense in terms of yards allowed. So Miami are better than I thought they were. But also he is looking after his body well. Those soft tissue injury concerns that we spoke about in the offseason don't appear to be there. There's no kind of niggling hangover, but also he's not being overused to the point where he's going to get that wear and tear, or he's going to increase the risk of that wear and tear. It's nice that he is clearly the star of that offense, but there are supporting members like Jadarian Price, who I know you are keen to talk about at some point in the future, as someone who is really coming out of the woodwork. So there are people there to share the load with him, but not take away from how good he is.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And for me now, look, it's a strange crop, this next crop of running backs, and even the kind of Devy perception of the position over the next couple of years. We after losing that much kind of lauded 2025 class, there is space now for people to develop. At the moment, we don't know where those stars are per se, but Jeremiah Love certainly bridges the gap, and for me, he's going to make an NFL team very, very happy for an awfully long time, because he has that, like I said, 13 receptions so far on the year. He can catch passes as well. He does a bit of everything. I've been really, really impressed in the short yardage work he's been getting. But you do know one of his best skill sets is the fact that he could just bust one from anywhere. So, look, he's every bit as good as advertised, and I'm glad you're warming up to him.
Yeah, well, look, those 3 things are key for being to getting early draft capital as a running back. You've got to be able to catch the ball. You've got to be able to make things happen once the ball's in your hands. That you can't just rely on the gaps that are made for you, and you've got to be present. You've got to be the best availability is being available. The best ability is availability.
I got you. I know where you're going.
And he's doing those things, but especially you look. So you think of running backs that were drafted high in the NFL recently that fit that kind of mold. You've got Trevion Henderson, obviously someone who has gone to the Patriots in the early second round, who can make something happen out of nothing, receiving and rushing. And you've got there's a bad example for the NFL, but a good example for the draft capital was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, someone who could make anything happen, could burst it from anywhere, and has excellent in the passing game. They're the guys that are getting early draft capital. You can add to that loads of the crop from this most recent NFL draft, but the guys that can be useful on an NFL roster don't get round 1 early, round 2 draft capital. You think of someone, you've got serviceable running backs being taken in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. That's not what we're looking for. He's got the skill set to be an early drafted running back. Is what I'm trying to say in a very elongated way.
No, got you completely. And I think there are a slew of teams at the moment who are crying out for that type of talent. A side like Washington, if you look at like where they're likely to pick, they're muddling things together at that position after Eckler went down, but I don't think they're anywhere near as committed to Bill as everyone thinks. Dallas, I mean, we've been saying it for years, Dallas need a running back. Look what that offense is doing for Javonte Williams at the moment. I loved Javonte Williams pre-injury, but you can't tell me Jeremiah Love is not an all-round better player right now. There's plenty of schemes that could make him work. And yeah, man, I'm delighted. I'm glad you're getting on board.
Yeah, I'm on board. I am taking the loss here of being slightly down on him. He's not just a running back. He's a weapon in all facets of the game, and I think that is what will continue to elevate his draft stock.
Absolutely. So speaking of taking a loss, all right, you're willing to take a loss on that one. Do you know who didn't take a loss this weekend, Jack?
I do know who didn't take a loss this weekend. It was you.
Absolutely. So it feels so good. It's been a long, long time since I've felt happy talking about Alabama and confident in the way that we are heading. So this weekend, Bama played Georgia in one of the biggest games of the season, every season. It doesn't really matter quite where those programs are in terms of sheer dominance of college football. We're not where we were 5 to 7 years ago, admittedly. There's this team called Ohio State that are pretty good at the moment, Jack. I don't know if you've heard of them. But whenever these two sides face off, it is must-see TV. And it was the game. I mean, there were two huge, colossal games this weekend. But for me, this was the biggest. And Bama took the game 24-21 after surging ahead by 21 points in the first half. The game, interestingly, I think will be remembered more for like a couple of jaw-dropping misses at either end. From high-profile Devy names. Ryan Williams dropped one in the first quarter that he would love to have back. It was a shocker. And look, you can't read too much into it. The kid is mercurially talented. Week one, when people were doubting him after the Florida State game, it is quite clear he was banged up and concussed because we saw what he did against Wisconsin. He has done it again last weekend. He just had one. He had one that he'll want back. He'll watch it on tape and kick himself because that should have been a touchdown. Absolutely no doubt about it. But that was in the first quarter, and Alabama went ahead with scores to Jeremy Bernard, again looking magnificent. Taylor Taylor, Georgia freshman wide receiver, Taylor Taylor, 5-star recruit. We covered him in the summer, and we talked, don't we? Like, with this, you've got to trust your eyes a little bit. And we are, by our own admission, armchair scouts. And I listened to a lot of other kind of Devy scouts, Devy analysts, working for other reputable sources that are available if you're not listening to us. And they were super high on Taylor, like talking about him being a potential star. And I just wasn't sure that I saw it. I will happily eat crow on it if I'm wrong. But I just wasn't as confident in what. But then when so many other people were telling me, this kid's legit, this is what we've seen, I was starting to doubt myself and maybe think I was wrong. Look, one catch, or not a catch as it might turn out to be, doesn't make a young man's career. But he had the perfect moment with the game on the line. There's about 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Georgia were very much on the front foot and taking the game to Bama and trying to get in front. And he dropped a pass that was literally identical to the Ryan Williams one. And college football is about moments, and building your Devy reputation and your stock can be all about those moments. If he houses that one and wins the game for Georgia, he is remembered forever. Even if it's just by Bama and Georgia fans for that one game and that one performance. He would never have to catch another ball at Georgia to be remembered forever. Yet here he is, this 5-star freshman who we are looking to see if he can break wide receiver zero metrics and whatever. That to me is just a huge opportunity, and it's an opportunity that's dropped, literally. And I mean, as a Bama fan, I was absolutely thrilled. As a Devy fan, my heart sank a little bit because if you have shares, they're those moments that elevate those shares. And yeah, it just fell by the wayside massively.
Yeah, I mean, so I watched the highlights. I didn't watch the game live. I watched the highlights knowing the score, but then I saw that pass flying towards him and thought, wait, hang on, what was the score again? Just a suit like I was certain he was going to catch that, and it was going to be a touchdown, and I'd got something wrong. It's such a shame that he dropped it. He will get other chances. He will get other opportunities. We just hope that they will be in as big a spotlight as that one, that he gets to show us that he is that talented. But this game was interesting for all kinds of Devy reasons, to be honest. Outside of those big headline makers like Ryan Williams, who we're kind of happy and assured on his quality. You mentioned Jerry Bernard. He's having a really strong season. Clearly a favourite target of Ty Simpson. You also had Isaiah Horton pop up in big plays in this game. Caught a touchdown, was valuable. Is slowly increasing his target share game on game. I think he had 5 targets, the same as Bernard, and I think the same as Ryan Williams in this game. Maybe potentially one more than Ryan Williams. So it's good to see that he is earning the trust of the Alabama offensive coordinators as well as his quarterback. So that was good. Colby Young on the other side of the ball, he's also starting to repeatedly be targeted in big moments in a game. He's getting significant target share at Georgia, which is good for a player who's had a rough couple of years, particularly off the field, with some legal accusations. So good for him to be on the field and approved to do so and starting to show some of his talent. And then who the heck is Chauncey Bowens? Who is this guy?
Yeah,
because he ripped off on just 12 carries, 119 yards and a touchdown. And I am not ashamed to say I have not heard of this guy before.
Nope, same. And we talked, don't we? There was a lot of noise been made in the summer about Burr Walker, and quite rightly, turning heads all the way through the summer. And then, we get to the game, and it's Chauncey Bowens, and you're right. Like he was. It's that old thing of I was not familiar with your game. You know, I went into this game completely unaware. But he led the team, like I said, 12 carries, nearly 120 yards. Keeping the big name on that roster in Nate Frazier, kind of off the field. Limited Nate Frazier's 4 carries for 30 yards.
Frazier maybe limited himself by fumbling. Yet again, there's a recurring issue that I need stamped out.
Absolutely.
Right now. Like he could really do with no more fumbles for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, agreed. Absolutely agreed. And Georgia will be there come the end of the season. Of course they will, because Kirby's teams will always be competitive. I just feel like this was a huge win for Bama. I feel like they needed it more. I think Kalen DeBoer might have found his seat getting very hot very, very quickly had they lost that one. Just one more name to mention, just talking about the kind of weapons that Alabama seems to have in that wide receiving core. Lottie Brooks went 2 receptions for 40 yards. I'm going to keep mentioning him because that now ticks him off the wide receiver 0. He's hit the required metrics, which is great to see. And he continues to be a piece that's going to grow as time goes on.
Yes, I was delighted to see that. If you haven't read Phil's piece on Lotzie Brooks from before the season even started, it's looking even better now as he is earning himself a role there. And my Devy leagues are all going to be gutted that was released, but they didn't read it because I snapped him up here, there, and everywhere.
That's it. So it wasn't the only big game this weekend. I mean, I could talk about Bama all day, but it wasn't the only big game. Let's talk the whiteout. Let's talk Oregon at Penn State. I wrote about this one for In Between Media last week, and I said this game was all about Drew Aller and how Drew Aller needed to show us something different. Because of all the physical talents, all the makeup, all the things we've talked about again and again and again, and how he always seems to manage to get in his own way in the biggest moments. I mean, tell us what happened, Jack. And now I've set that up beautifully. You tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, Drew Aller didn't really come to life until the fourth quarter when Penn State absolutely needed him to. But that in those moments, he threw the ball beautifully. He had great pocket poise, and he put on tape some true NFL throws. Those throws that you have to have the touch, you have to have the right velocity on the throw. You have to, dare I say it, stand in the pocket and take a hit in order to get your receiver open. And we saw that in the fourth quarter. So if you only watch the fourth quarter and overtime, well, actually, maybe not overtime, that's the way the game ended. But if you watch that fourth quarter, you're really delighted with what Drew Aller's putting on tape. It's just, it came way too late. He's inconsistent with it. So the game, I don't really know how it went to overtime. Oregon really kind of dominated. Well, let's be fair. Both defenses are fantastic.
Yeah.
So Penn State and Oregon, this game was 3-3 for a very long time. And it was because those defenses were playing really well. We kind of expect that from Penn State. It was really nice to see for Oregon. I think for Lanning and his offense, they were delighted to be kind of playing complementary football for most of that game. But so there's that caveat on the kind of lower statistical day for most of your Devy starters in this game. Drew Aller had a less than fantastic day. Nick Singleton the same. Katon Allen, fairly decent, but nothing special. On the other side of the ball, DeCorian Moore was the top receiver for Oregon, which is great, and he's established himself as, if not for now, the future wide receiver one on that team and probably in his draft class. He's having to share that role with Kenyon Sadiq, which is really good news for your tight end fans. If you picked up the Oregon tight end, he had 5 targets again, I think, or maybe 6 receptions. And Gary Bryant Jr., he's still clinging on there. He's definitely not junior. He is definitely not a junior. But he had 6 receptions as well. So the ball's being spread around, but DeCorian Moore has certainly found his groove, and he is showing the talent that we thought he had in, we did our wide receiver preview and we're like, this is the only guy in tier 1. Sure. But he really deserves to be in tier 1, and he's really showing that. So that was really exciting. Drew Aller is going to be an enigma for me personally going to the NFL, because I have no idea if a team is going to fall in love with his highlights and think that they can work on. I think the biggest blocker is him overthinking in the pocket. Yeah. He's overthinking things. Is an NFL team going to be confident they can help him sort that out, or is he gonna drop?
I just can't help. This sounds so defeatist, but I think I'm done now. I think the opportunity to show that growth has been and gone. How many talented guys never quite put it together? And I am not for a moment saying that he isn't talented. You build a QB in a lab, they come out looking like Drew Aller. Mm-hmm. But there's a gamerism that's kind of lacking. the ability to be clutch, to put the team on his back. He could easily hang around the league for 10 years as a backup, a spot starter. I just don't see him being the guy we hoped he would be in terms of leading a franchise.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page. I just don't know if the ceiling is there anymore that we were excited about. We were excited about the ceiling, but he's not reached anywhere near it.
What it does mean is there's still value in the asset because he's going to get drafted. There's nothing to say that he can't be a day two guy. Like I say, spot starter, hold value in superflex leagues, etc. Depending on where he ends up, if he's backing up, a veteran, there'll be opportunity, and he'll return some value for you because he's going to make your NFL roster, and that's what we want first. But yeah, I think as far as the ceiling goes, I just don't see a round one guy anymore, and I don't think any flashes between now and the end of the year could convince me otherwise.
Yeah, the spanner I'm going to throw in the works here is that Jackson Dart went in the first round this year, and I absolutely didn't see that in his future. And
but when did that trajectory start for Jackson Dart? Throughout his last year, he was answering questions we had about the touchdown to interceptions ratio, the pass completion. He began to step up and dominate and take games over. It's the exact opposite of what we're seeing from Drew Aller at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even know if he leads Penn State to a win against Ohio State. Does that answer enough questions for you? That would be a really interesting. If that happens, you're going to be answering that question by yourself because I will be in a corner crying. But that would be really interesting if he has got at least one more chance in a big moment to prove it. The likelihood is that Penn State will be good enough to make the playoffs, and therefore he'll have more than one shot. But he's definitely got at least one more shot in prime time to prove us wrong. But yeah, the trajectory is not it's not a gradual incline. It's going to have to be like a heart spike to get us there. So let's see.
That's it. Right, couple of quick hitters from around college football this last week. Has anybody seen Squirrel White?
Oh my gosh, that poor man.
If you've not seen in the dying seconds, Florida State trying to sew the game up in overtime. A pass goes Squirrel White's way. It is deflected and batted down in the end zone. Virginia upset Florida State. The fans, in true college fashion, storm the field in one of the most insane kind of run-ons you're ever going to see. But they are there the second the ball hits the floor. The fans are on the field. Poor Squirrel White is still on the floor. And, I mean, amazingly, he appears to have walked out unscathed. But he got stampeded in what was quite scary, to be honest. But the fairy tale story there is the huge upset. Are Florida State as good as we thought they were after that week one performance against Alabama? Were Alabama just having a bad day at the office? They go to Miami this week in another huge game. If they lose that one, they're just the pretenders that I thought they were.
I think they're at home.
And they're at home.
I believe they're at home to Miami. It'd be really interesting to see how they respond. I think Florida State are better than. I think this is a blip, and I think Florida State are going to give Miami a better game than they're being given credit for. We put this one on the schedule just to chat about a couple of Devy players, or just check in. So we've got Osman Cromer, the number one running back from our point of view in the freshman class. He is starting to put together some highlight reels. He's having some big boy moments, running players over. And Deuce Robinson is the number one target by far for Thomas Castellano. That guy, the guy Phil hates. Thomas Castellanos. He had 9 receptions in this game for 147 yards and a touchdown. He is a big boy receiver. He is athletic. He is strong. He's not a guy that's going to stretch the field necessarily, and he's not going to move across the formation. But he is productive. He is being productive, and he's a name that people have heard of, and he's kind of gone off to the side for a little bit. So one to keep an eye out coming back.
Absolutely. Moving on, Ole Miss in what seemed to be like the kind of clickbait media game of the week with all the nonsense between the Kiffin family and the Weeks family. Ole Miss roll LSU. LSU's defense looked like the defense of last season, rather than a kind of dominant linebacker group that we've grown accustomed to seeing this year. Trinidad Chambliss, man.
Out of nowhere.
Literally. Played Ferris State last year. Obviously comes in the portal to back up. Why did his name escape me?
Austin Simmons.
And he's made the most of his opportunity. Simmons goes down injured. Chambliss comes in. I love the offense that's been called for him, suiting his skill set down to a T. 71 yards on the ground. He's just a fun story. I don't know if there's a Devy flaw there. I do know that he's going to make it incredibly difficult for Simmons to get the job back from him with the way he's playing right now. On the other side of the ball, I was bullish on what I'd seen from Garrett Nussmeier after the Clemson game. Maybe it's just that Clemson weren't that good because Nussmeier is struggling. It looks a little bit labored. It's not helped by the fact that LSU just cannot run the ball. It was a big-time body blow for Harlan Berry's Devy stock as well. With Kadum Durham down injured, it was Harlan Berry's opportunity to really announce himself as a bona fide 5-star. He didn't look legit. I think it was 23 yards on 7 carries. The
offensive line are just doing nothing. The offensive line are just not doing anything. I think it's a really difficult game for Harlan Berry to step into as a starter. I've actually really enjoyed watching him in bits and spurts throughout the season until this game, where he's been in as a change of pace back, and he has kind of surprised defenses by being trusted with the ball, and he's done a bit. This game was not a game for any running back to run at. LSU could not run the ball at all last year, and they clearly can't do it again this year, and that makes them one-dimensional, which makes everybody look worse. It makes the receivers look worse because they're bracketed. It makes the quarterback look worse because he's under pressure and his receivers aren't open, and it makes the running backs look terrible because they can't do anything.
That's it. I mean, even the touchdown catch for LSU, it's not exactly as they drew it up. It was a poor pass by Nussmeier that took a deflection in the end zone. Nick Anderson just made a heads-up play. He wasn't the intended target. Just a bad day at the office. Going back to Harlan Berry, you're right, the O-line wasn't good. For me, I felt like he was a little bit too keen to want to bounce runs to the outside unnecessarily. But that was probably because of a lack of trust in that O-line.
Lack of trust, and he's a freshman running back. Like, how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen a freshman running back not stay patient, not hit the hole that opens up because they've already bounced out to the outside?
That's it. Right, Jack, time. We are almost at an hour, and we would just like to touch base on some of the QBs who perhaps are doing the business.
Yes.
So obviously we discussed our golden rule for Devy drafting on the last show and how we're firm believers in waiting to take the guys who've maybe put a little bit on tapes, graduate transfers and the likes. So let's have a look at a couple of the names that if you've got on your roster, you're probably feeling really, really good about at the moment. Okay. Where do you want to start, Jack?
I want to start with the guy that, is probably suspicious by his omission in our chat about the Penn State Oregon game. That's Dante Moore. And we knew he was going to come up in this section, so we didn't want to wax lyrical about him twice. Although his performances so far this season maybe warrant it, because I am super impressed by what Dante Moore is putting on tape. On the road, in a whiteout at Penn State, he was 29 for 39, 29 completions on 39 pass attempts, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against a strong defense. Now, those statistics are slightly skewed because of overtime. So he's obviously got an extra bit of yardage, extra bit of touchdowns in there. But he also added 35 rushing yards, which is something we kind of knew that he had, but you haven't seen loads of in his time this season at Oregon. I think it was really exciting to see him play this well. And he is draft eligible this year. I can't imagine he declares for the draft.
This is the thing, isn't it? You're right. He is draft eligible. Right now, I think he's got. Was that his 10th career start? I feel like I read it was his 10th, right? Because if Oregon make a run deep into the playoffs, and he continues, because right now, look, with some of the big names we were expecting to be dominant, kind of fumbling the bag a little bit. He looks like one of the best kind of pure pocket passers in college football right now. Like, it's just got to be said. And of course, I want to separate that. One, his Devy stock is definitely ascending. Like, if you bought low after the transfer from UCLA, like, you're looking really, really good. You're loving what you've done and when you bought him. If you bought him as a 5-star rookie and you overpaid for him as a freshman, well, then maybe you're getting your return on investment back when you thought it would kind of been blown out of the water. So Devy stock is on the up, definitely. When I say that right now he looks like the best kind of pocket passer in college football, I don't shy away from that. It's what you can see, and it doesn't take much to see it on tape, just like how good the tape looks at the moment. But I am absolutely not endorsing he comes out. Like, the guy, for me, like I say, I think that was his 10th career start. If Oregon make a deep run towards the playoffs, by draft time, he might have hit 20 starts. It is not enough, right? But here's the thing. If these other guys don't pick up their seasons, your Norris Sellers, your Cade Klubniks, your Garrett Nussmeyers, your Drew Allers, who we've just talked about, his phone's going to start ringing and agents are going to start sussing out, what are your plans, young man? Because we'd like to take you high in the NFL draft. And it's going to be a real test of his desire. I'm really glad he's in Oregon with all that Phil Knight's money. That might help persuade him to stay another year. I also look at the sides that are going to need a quarterback at the very top of the draft this year. Would you? I mean, I can imagine the allure of wanting to go to New Orleans and play for Kellen Moore. I can imagine Kellen Moore being a real pull to a young quarterback. But do you want to go play in that dumpster fire right now in New Orleans? I certainly, it's not the way I would want to. He's going to be 20 on during the NFL draft. He won't even be 21. He's not 21 until the May. Like, if that just seems to me like a poison chalice and somewhere I wouldn't want to be. I would take all that night money, run it back for another year, build that resume. You've seen what playing in that system. Will Steiner's the coordinator there, right? Mm-hmm. You've seen just what Will Steiner has done. He's a buzzing name. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a head coach.
Yeah, I was going to say he might not be there in a year's time.
But there's, for me, if he stays put, Dante Moore staying with him for another year, it's only going to solidify that draft position. So that would be my advice. But hey, who am I? The kid's going to make his own decision. All we can say right now is he looks the business and he deserves the hype coming his way.
Yeah, he does. He looks great. He's fun to watch, and he's growing and learning. You can see how good that decision was to transfer to Oregon and to sit has been, because he was raw in his UCLA days. So yeah, good news. Cool. And good news for your Devy stock. Most importantly, there's hope for that investment. Even if you've held him for 3 years, that hope is coming back.
Absolutely. So speaking of guys who again have done their share of holding a clipboard, all right, let's talk Ty Simpson. I'm desperate to it's been a while since I've been able to be bullish about an Alabama quarterback. So allow me to be bullish about Ty Simpson. We're very quick to forget. Like in Devy, we're very much a what have you done for me lately? And we forget just what a coup the Ty Simpson signing was back in the 2022 recruiting cycle. He was the kind of overall second QB to come out, 5-star. He dominated Tennessee high school football. And like I say, he was considered a real coup in terms of, a recruiting catch by Nick Saban. And he's exercised patience and he's waited his turn. This is his 4th collegiate season and only his first year as a starter. It is almost unheard of for a guy to sit for 3 years in this day and age in college football. And he is reaping the rewards. I think what pops on the tape for me at the moment is the quick release, the dual threat ability. He deserves all the plaudits coming his way. I'm still not sure. Color me skeptical. I'm not sure what the ceiling is fantasy football wise, but right now I feel like he's a guy who can run an offense. He's running that Ryan Grubb offense beautifully. He is highlighting and playing to the strength of the skill set of his wide receivers, and yeah, he deserves the noise coming his way. He's shot up to 2nd overall in the Heisman odds. So he's currently got the 2nd shortest odds of any player in college football, 19-2, so just shy of 10-1. That will be a huge overreaction to that Georgia win. And you could expect some correction if he doesn't quite back it up this weekend against Vanderbilt, which is a huge, huge game. I don't ever remember feeling nervous about playing Vanderbilt. But I certainly am this week. But look, Ty Simpson throws well on the move. Is running the offense at an incredibly high, effective level. If you have a Devy share, you probably took it late in his freshman season, because I can't imagine for a moment you would have taken one between years 2 and year 3. Maybe you saw him take the starting job this year and punt on the helmet. Risky strategy, but it looks like there could be some payoff for it. Just how high that'll be, I couldn't tell you yet. But right now, he looks like a very competent college quarterback. And to me, at least in my limited experience of this kind of format, seems like the perfect C2C quarterback at the moment.
Yeah, he's navigating that pretty well. That quick release is the thing that really sticks out for me. I love to see that in a quarterback, because it just gets you out of so many problems. Like if you can get the ball out quick, you can turn a sack into a dead play and not be flagged for grounding, intentional grounding. So I'm really interested in that. I would be super, super surprised. Well, this is the dilemma. If Ty Simpson plays really well this year and he wants to return to Alabama next season, which I imagine would be in his best interest, I can't imagine him getting good enough preview of how he's going to go in the NFL draft to declare. What does that do for Keelan Russell, who's a completely different quarterback prospect? I think Alabama could have it's a good problem to be choosing between two good quarterbacks, but I just can't see Ty Simpson not returning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the coaching staff at Alabama have got to use Ty Simpson as the proof in the pudding about how patience will pay off. Let's be honest, in this day and age, Keelan Russell isn't He's going to have offers. I've already heard LSU fans very, very loud on social media saying, let's go all out and get him because they've just lost another high-profile commit in the kind of recruiting game. So that their mantra is, let's go out and get Killen Russell. Well, I'm not being bullish or kind of rude or kind of glutty in any way, shape, or form. But whatever LSU would want to pay him, Bama can match. It's a risky game, but if you want to keep this kid and convince him that his long-term future is in Tuscaloosa, you point to just how Ty Simpson has made the most of his opportunity and point out that a player can grow without being in the starting role, and then pay him to keep him. I think that's the reality of where we're at with it. But what a nice position to be in.
Well, especially after we had no idea who was going to be that starter. It is really nice. It feels like Ty Simpson feels like a really fun guy to root for, a nice guy to root for, because he was written off several times.
Absolutely. Right, last one. We've said. I mean, this just feels like it was all lined up for me. I've got to talk about Ty Simpson, and now I get to talk about Fernando Mendoza. I want to take you back to June, the 1st of June. I posted a thread on X about why I had fallen hard for Fernando Mendoza, and I've banged the drum all off season, and I'm feeling sweet vindication at the moment. Look, so in week 4 against Illinois, he went crazy, just absolutely crazy in the first half of that game. He had 5 touchdowns in that game. He completed 21 of 23 passes for a 91.3% completion rate. And after that game, he rightly rocketed to the front of the kind of Heisman odds. There was the inevitable correction in week 5 as Indiana ground out a 2015 win over Iowa.
The worst game of the season. Not just the worst game of the week. It was dreadful to watch.
Without a doubt. But again, in the biggest moments, he stood tall and delivered a pass to Elijah Surratt kind of late in the 4th quarter to see that game home. We've spoke about the skill set. Like he's that kind of token for how we like to draft Devy quarterbacks in terms of the production, the transfer, and when you actually look, like aligning him up with Coach Kurt Signetti, everything just seemed to fall into place. And I've got a couple of fears. I'm genuinely fearful that he falls to the middle of the 1st round and ends up being a Pittsburgh Steeler. Which is a Baltimore Ravens fan, means I'll have to dislike him. I certainly don't want him going there. But I think my biggest fear is that The Athletic released a 2026 NFL mock draft this afternoon, in fact. And they had him going number 2 overall to the Saints. That is a player I do not want at the New Orleans Saints. But look, I'm feeling really, really good about Mendoza. I'm feeling really, really good about my gamble and the advice I gave people in the summer. He's on one of the things we said was he had to cut down the turnovers, right? We made it quite clear he was guilty sometimes of trying to do it all himself at Cal. A little bit of hero ball because he didn't have a great deal of weaponry around him. And he just put some balls out there, hoping for the best that he really didn't need to make. So far this year, 1,208 yards, 16 touchdowns to 1 interception. Like, he has answered the call and cut that down massively. He's currently got a completion percentage of 73%. If you, using PFF, if you look at his adjusted completion percentage, which take into account only kind of targetable throws, he's first amongst all college quarterbacks with over 100 dropbacks, with an adjusted completion percentage of 83.2%. Like, he's answering all the questions we had. Like, and again, when those big names are dropping the ball, fumbling the bag, our late round knight in shining armor, kind of following. Look again, following that pattern that we saw with Jayden Daniels. Nobody was talking about Jayden Daniels until he made that senior transfer and everything worked. Cam Ward last year, and now it appears, at least through 5 weeks of the college football season, that Mendoza is the guy who is following that same kind of pathway and progression plan. There's something in it, man. We're onto something.
There is. You go further back than our Devy days. Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Absolutely. And I just, I'm feeling great about it. I'm feeling great about Mendoza, and I feel like he's dropped a couple of sound bites as he's been picking up, obviously, media interest in his performances, and now draft buzz is starting to roll. He also seems just like thoroughly likable. Like, you just want to throw that out there. There's no arrogance, there's no ego. He just seems thoroughly likable. I'm pulling for him all the way now.
Yeah, I mean, I am super grateful for how hard you banged the drum for Mendoza. I think lots of our listeners will be too. We're all reaping the rewards of your good work and your good words. So we're thankful and we're hopeful for him. And I think, like you say, easy to root for. He's at a program that's quite easy to root for as well. It's quite nice to see. It's probably quite patronising if there are any Indiana fans out there. I'm very sorry, but they're quite an easy team to root for and cheer on. And they will surprise a few people this year. I want to root for them. I don't want to play against them.
Yeah, absolutely that. I think a lot of questions were asked, like, after they got into the playoffs last year, like, beginners look, how good are they? I think they're showing you that they're a much, much better team than we gave them credit for. You know, we knew they were incredibly well coached, but was it, you know, that kind of plucky, kind of almost beginners look, there I say, that kind of got them there? It absolutely isn't. They're a talented football team. They've got some big games coming up over the next couple of weeks. And it'll be really, I think they play Oregon in week 7, 8.
I don't know which week they are playing Oregon.
But yeah, that one's going to be absolutely massive to see just where they're at. But yeah, we will look forward to that one. Let's wrap it up real quick. You wanted to talk Sam Levitt very quickly.
Yes, Sam Levitt had a nice stat line this week in a good game against TCU. I can't believe it was as low scoring as it was, to be honest, with Sam Levitt on one side and Josh Hoover on the other, who's another name maybe to keep an eye on. But Sam Levitt continued his steady upward trend, I would say, from a Devy perspective. 27 completions of 39 attempts, and not the highest completion rate, but 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and another win for Arizona State, who continue to set the trend, I guess, in the Big 12 along with Texas Tech. I think there's the Big 12 gives us chaos all the time, so it'll be interesting to see whether the Sun Devils can, led by Sam Levitt, can repeat their feats of last season.
I have a sneaky feeling that Arizona State are going to end up being the UK Neutrals college team. As we're looking for someone to back in the run-up to that London game, Sam Levitt is an easy-to-like quarterback. Obviously, if a neutral was to watch them this year, they also get the benefit of watching Jordan Tyson. You would see him in London next year. But yeah, I've got a feeling Arizona State are going to be the favorite. I think the definitely the home team, regardless of whether they're supposed to be the home team by the time they arrive at Wembley next year.
Nice. We won't ruin that image with the recent history and suspensions and bans that they got. You can research. Everyone can research that themselves.
Absolutely. Jack, where does the time go? Listen, college football. We didn't even talk about Ohio State and their suffocating win over Washington. You know, it's not about Jeremiah Smith. It's about that defense. Until next time, gang. All right. We'll be back in a fortnight. Until then, you can follow the entire team on Wildcard Devy. You can follow us on X. All right. Jack is at Jack CDT. I am at Posh Players FF. Like I say, you can follow us at Wildcard Devy. You can follow the whole Fantasy Wildcard gang on X and YouTube with all the awesome Dynasty content dropping all the time, as well as our Devy goodness. Until then, we'll see you in a fortnight.
See you soon.